All right, we're live. I think we're live here, guys. Just wait to see what's going on, to see if we're live here or not. I'm pretty sure we are. Let me just check. Checking a different device. Yeah, we're good to go. All right, awesome. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat. Just chuck a message in there if you can, then we should be good to get started. Let me just check here. You're live. Sweet. All right, awesome. Okay, well, we had that interest rates decision, and that was interesting, right? Well, played out as we kind of went over in yesterday's video. We saw a 50 basis point hike there in the US. So let me just check that out. Have the interest rate chart now. Okay, so yeah, rates are at 1 now, 100 basis points or 1%, whichever way you want to say it. And so, yeah, that's interesting, and, that definitely signifies a hike there. Now, I was pretty certain that it wasn't going to be raised by more than 50 basis points because at the end of the day, the Federal Reserve kind of, they exist to try and keep things as stable as possible, although they fail sometimes, obviously, but, they don't want to raise it by 75 basis points or 100 basis points because that would go against what the market has priced in. Okay, so you can see that the S&P 500, in reaction to that interest rate hike, has actually pumped when in reality that's a bearish move for the entire markets, right? Because companies now can take out, basically can just take less debt. People have less money to spend on companies, so stock valuations go down in general. Interest rates hiking is obviously not a good thing for stocks. However, seeing as it was priced in during this kind of massive downfall from 4,600 all the way down to 4,000 flat, it was priced in that there was going to be a 50 basis point hike, and so the market was prepared for that. So if we saw a 75 basis point hike or a 100 basis point hike, although that is what is required, it wouldn't have been good because then, the markets would have had to go down. And as I said, the whole point of the Federal Reserve is to try their best to keep things stable while putting in things in place to combat inflation, which is essentially what they're trying to do with interest rate hikes. But, someone says scam pump. I don't know if it's a scam pump or it's just part of the process. I wouldn't say that the pump on the S&P 500 and the recent pump on Bitcoin perfectly reflects the macro situation right now. I would just say it's a normal reaction to a short-term move that was already priced in. So you'll notice yesterday in my video, I said basically I don't really know what's going to happen in the short term because it's very, very difficult to predict something like that with interest rates, how the market's going to react. But it was priced in, it turned out, and hence we saw a little bounce because of that. Now, that doesn't mean that the market's good now and good to go. It just means that that singular decision on that specific day was priced in, and so now the market can have a bit of relief. And so ultimately, yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if Bitcoin breaks out of its descending wedge to the upside due to that, because if we cross-analyze and look what happened last time, right, so we had interest rates rise 25 basis point on, I think it was 14th of March, somewhere around here, right? We had basically 2 weeks of an uptrend, and Bitcoin copied that, right? On the S&P 500, 2 weeks of an uptrend, and Bitcoin copied that. Bitcoin went up for 2 weeks. It went from 37,000 to 48,000, right? And then obviously as the interest rate fears started to spike up again, we started to go back down. So again, it's very hard to predict the short term right now, purely because it's not really reliant too much on the TA. The longer term trend is what I'm trying to predict. We could realistically see, and I said this in yesterday's video as well, we could realistically see a retest of 42 to 43k again. I would just be skeptical to assume that it's going to break that region, right? I don't necessarily think it's going to do that, given the macro environment. If we're looking at where, what stands at 42k, we're looking at the 50 SMA, we're looking at Ikomoku, we're looking at Gaussian channel, bull market support band, 75, 21 as well. We're looking at the center line of the Bollinger Bands. There's a lot of resistance above us right now. Does that mean we can't break through it? Of course we can break through it. It's just a question of, how, logically speaking, given the macro environment, does it seem like Bitcoin will break through that? I don't think it does. And that's going into the longer term charts as well. However, I have said on multiple occasions that 37k is really the critical breaker, right? If 37k is lost, there's basically no chance of any kind of bullish recovery for the rest of the year. But if we hold 37k, then technically we have a chance of being bullish, right? And that's what I've stood by the whole time. Yeah, hey guys, got a bunch of people in chat. That's great to see. I haven't done a live stream in like 2 months. So, it's been a while. How high can this small recovery pump go? Yeah, look, like as I said, the main target, like I'm looking for a rejection, the main rejection zone, like I guess you could say the first step the bulls need to make is to jump above, say, 42.5k. If they can do that, that's getting interesting. That's when you start looking at the bullish argument genuinely and seriously. But until that point, it's just kind of ranging after a bear flag breakdown, right? We've had a massive bear flag breakdown. This yellow solid line channel was the bear flag. We've broken that to the downside. Unless we can break back within that, there's no real macro progress. It's just kind of jumping around brainlessly, and people are just getting flipped back, bullish, bearish every 2 seconds, even though nothing's really changed. So again, 42.5k is the major step that needs to happen. So I'd say right now the 2 critical zones you need to be looking at, and I repeat this every video, like in the last week or so, because it's just what it is. The 2 major zones you need to be looking at right now are 37k and 42.5k, right? Whichever way Bitcoin goes will determine the next shorter term trend. If we break 37k, we're going to 33. If we break 42.5k, we'll go straight up to 45 to 40, 45.5. And then we can get to the next step. I don't want to make these, big short-term predictions, because as we've just seen by the Federal Reserve right there, the shorter term is just hard to predict right now. It really just is. Zilla's pumping mega again. Hello from Bangkok. How you going, guys? You guys going well? I haven't looked at the charts this morning, by the way. This is the first time looking at them, so I'm just freestyling this. Probably won't go much higher. Yeah, look, it depends what the S&P 500 does. As I said, last month when we saw, or March, I should say, when we saw that interest rate hike, we pumped up literally just because the S&P 500 pumped up. However, we do still respect TA. So people say, well, Bitcoin's pumping because of the S&P 500. It's like, yeah, that's correct, but it still respects TA. It's not just going to go to 52k and come back down to $1 because of the S&P 500, right? It's still going to act within the logical bounds, right? So that's why I'm talking about 37k and 42.5k. But I'm going to look at or you guys post all the questions you want, and I'll look into those questions. But before we get into any questions, I want to do a quick little run over on Bitcoin, and then we can do questions throughout the rest of the live stream. I do like doing a little Bitcoin run over, so the people who don't catch the live stream can just watch Bitcoin at the start. Let me just see what's going on here. Yeah, right. 96 concurrent viewers. Yeah, it's definitely the most we've ever had there. So it's been a while. It's been 2 months. Pretty cool. All right, so moving on here. Bitcoin. So as we just said, right, all of the short-term stuff, a little bit unpredictable. Major levels you need to be watching are 37k and 42.5k, right? What we're looking at on the shorter term is a bear flag breakdown. We're also looking at a descending wedge formation, which is typically a bullish formation, which is why this structure is kind of confusing. We have not broken that descending wedge formation for the upside yet. That's worth considering. A lot of people are willing to flip back bullish at the bloody drop of an eggshell. I'm not like that, right? I'm waiting for something to happen because nothing's happened. We're still in the descending wedge formation. There's no telling as to what can happen next. We could just bloody drop down and break it to the downside, right? There's no real indication of what's going to happen next year. Now, if we look at something like the RSI, which we'll bring up right now, relative strength index, we can see we do have some bullish divergence playing out, so that does buffer the bullish argument a little bit. We also just saw a bullish MACD cross. However, it's too early to say if that will actually play out, or maybe it just flattens out for a few red candles. Volume doesn't look too bad from what I checked yesterday, so let's see how it's looking today. All right, yeah, pretty good green volume on this recent kind of upwards rally, which is good to see. So there is a bit of reaction there from the bulls. It does look as though, according to the TA here, that the bullish argument might have some sustenance in the short term. But again, we want to be seeing a daily close over this wedge in order to kind of, consolidate that prediction. Now, why am I so interested in 47k? Well, you guys would know this already, right? If you've watched some of my videos before, but we're just going to look into it again. 47k is interesting to me let me go to the Bitstamp chart for the monthly chart specifically. And we'll jump onto logarithmic scale here, and we can take a look at the monthly chart. So we can see that the 21 EMA is at 47k right now. Why is that important? Because the 21 EMA on the monthly chart is basically one of the biggest moving averages you need to be looking at as a investor or analyst in the cryptocurrency market, right? This is an important EMA. That's an understatement, all right? And how do we know that? Well, the only way we can really look at it is that every time we've lost it, we've seen a 50% correction within a matter of months, and every time we've gone above it, so we've regained it, we've seen upwards of a 200% rally into the thousands of percent rallies within the next year or so. So you can see we lost it here in 2014. We saw a 50 to 60% correction within about 3 months there. We lost it in 2018. Within 2 months or 3 months, we saw a 50 to 60% correction. And then we lost it in the COVID drop, although it was brief, and we saw a very, very sharp correction of 45%, or roughly 45%. Okay, so those are all reactions from losing the 21 EMA on the monthly chart. Those are pretty severe reactions, and so that kind of begs the question, well, what's going to happen with the 21 EMA now on the monthly chart? And what we could say is that, well, if we lose 37K on the monthly chart here with a 21 EMA, we can pretty much assume that it's going to end up, something similar to what we saw in 2018, 2014, or the COVID drop, in which we see a very, very sharp correction very, very quickly. And this is kind of why I've been talking a bit about a May crash. Now, what I will say about a May crash is that if Bitcoin manages to break that descending wedge to the upside and break above 42.5K, that entire scenario is kind of a little bit less likely to play out. Now, as of this point, nothing's happened on the Bitcoin chart, so it still is my prediction. I still think there's going to be a major correction in May. But there is an invalidation point for everything, and obviously if Bitcoin breaks back into the mid 40K region, it doesn't seem as likely. But at this point, all the evidence I've displayed before in a May crash is still very relevant and still holding true. Now, as for breaking the 21 EMA to the upside, you can see that we broke it to the upside here in 2015. We saw a massive bull market, broke it here to the upside after the COVID drop, saw a massive bull market again. And you can see this thing, all you need to do is look at the chart. It holds for support quite well. And so there is an argument to be made that, hey, maybe the 21 EMA could hold Bitcoin for support here and we could see a rally off of it. Now, do I think that's likely? Not at all. I mean, especially considering things like the 4-year cycle, which again, you guys are very familiar with at this point. It just really doesn't seem likely that Bitcoin's just going to randomly go macro bullish here and depeg from traditional markets. Now, if it does do that, that is something that I would consider to be unpredictable. Why? Because Bitcoin at the current moment in time is pegged to traditional markets. If it was randomly to go macro bullish right now and go to new all-time high, that is, I don't know how to say the word, but anomaly, all right? Whatever that word is, you guys know what I mean. It's an event that it can't be predicted. It's never happened before because, we can assume, based on the interest rate hikes and based on the recession that is almost guaranteed at this point, that the traditional markets will be going down and the dollar will be going up, right? In the current trend, Bitcoin should go down in that macro scenario. Now, if it goes up, that's Bitcoin breaking the trend. And as an investor, we need to be investing with the trend. So if Bitcoin breaks the trend, that's out of our control. That's just part of the game. So the way I see it right now is that the bearish argument, and this is my opinion, obviously some people are going to disagree with me, that's fine. The bearish argument is the logical place to be, purely because you are investing with the trend, if you are relying on the bearish argument, right? If you're in the bullish argument, you're trying to say basically that Bitcoin is going to do something it's never done before. All right. And I don't stand well with that. I don't think that's a logical thing to say. Again, people will disagree with me, but that's how I see the market right now. If you're bearish, you're investing with the trend, which is what an investor is meant to do, right? You're not meant to try and catch these massive reversal points based on evidence that hasn't played out before. You're meant to identify past trends and apply that to the future. That is the whole point of investing, right? And people say all the time, well, past trends aren't a good indicator of future performance. And it's like, you're correct, but what do you think technical analysis is? It's using past data, data that is harvested from the past, adjusting it, and predicting the future based off that data. That's the whole of TA. So if you don't believe in investing with the trend, in a way, I would argue you don't believe in TA. And if you don't believe in TA, I don't know what to say to you because it works. But yeah, so that's the bearish argument there. And then I suppose I assume most of you guys who are watching the live stream right now are part of a channel. And yeah, obviously I think that Bitcoin will go down to the 200-week SMA, and I think that's going to happen in November to December. This is all old information though. And then I suppose the information that is pressing, that is of concern now that we've had that interest rate hike, is kind of the death cross in the 3-day chart. Right, that's a very interesting piece of information there. And it's probably the most compelling piece of information that we can come across. So 3-day chart, we have the 50 and 200 SMAs. Generally, when we see the 50 SMA cross underneath the 200 SMA, that is called a death cross, and we see a major correction on Bitcoin. And that will be happening in just about 6 days or maybe 9 days or maybe 12 days, right? The point is, within the next 2 weeks, there will be a death cross in the 3-day chart. And as I've just said, the last 2 times that's occurred, we've seen major corrections on Bitcoin. Right, going back to the weekly chart. In fact, let me just reverse this all here, and we can get back up. Okay, so going back to the weekly chart, let's switch it to the weekly time frame. We can see something like the Gaussian channel, and the weekly candle was closing in 3 days, by the way, so this is really starting to get interesting. The Gaussian channel flipping red is something that's only happened 2 times in Bitcoin's history. Both times preceding a major 50% correction, it will be flipping red in about 1 to 2 weeks. And then on top of this, we have evidence coming from the Bollinger Bands, in which the Bollinger Bands are having a squeeze, so they're tightening, and that means that a big move's on the way, either up or down. And based on the evidence we just looked at, we can assume that's going to be downwards, and hence Bitcoin is more likely to go downwards based on the Bollinger Bands as well. Moving on to the 75 and the 200, every time at 50 crosses under the 75, which is the red crossing under the blue, we end up in the midst of a major 50% correction, and that will be happening in about a week as well. So you can see all of this stuff lines up. I talk about this all a lot. All of this stuff lines up, and it lines up for a reason, because it's not a coincidence, right? This is all kind of moving in together to create one kind of buffered argument. And so the argument, in my opinion, for a major correction in May to June, is very strong. It's not certain though, and it's also not the major part of my bear market prediction. I don't really care, to be honest, at all what happens in May to June. I care whether Bitcoin gets to the 200 week or not. That's what I care about. And you know, some people always ask me, and I do cover it occasionally, but they do ask me a lot, what would it take for me to flip back bullish? Very simple. All I would need to flip back bullish, in my opinion, first of all, I'd want some more clarity on the macro situation. I'd want some more clarity on what's going on with a recession, because I genuinely don't believe that Bitcoin will perform well if there is a recession. I would also like to see Bitcoin jump above the 200-day SMA, which is a major kind of medium-term to long-term resistance zone that kind of indicates whether we're in a bull market or a bearish market, or a bull trend or a bearish trend. You can see on the last dead cat bounce, we actually came up and rejected off of that. I would also like to see, 47K, I would also like to see Bitcoin jump above the 50-week SMA, which I talk about extensively, and that's at 45K. So basically, if Bitcoin can break above 47K and we can get some more clarity on the macro situation, I will happily go bullish again. At this point, I don't see the point. And, you know, this isn't something I've been saying for 2 days. You know, I've been bearish since this region up here in the 60K region. So, you know, it's not a new prediction. And honestly, you know, I think at this point, I'm at the point where I genuinely don't really care that much. I'm just looking at the data objectively. I don't have, you know, obviously I have a long-term Bitcoin position and I trade it daily or almost daily, probably sub-daily to be honest. A scalp trading, you know, taking little, you know, positions that last a few hours at a time. But I don't have any long-term skin in the game. And so for that reason, I'm able to not be, you know, manipulated by my own bias. And, you know, given the fact that I've de-risked like 63K, I deleted all my long-term positions by that point. So by 63K, I was out of the market completely long-term. You know, if I buy back at 47K or 50K, I don't care. You know, I've still avoided a massive drop, and I've still avoided the emotional stress that comes with 4 months of holding in a red position. So I don't care what happens, but I do think, personally, if I have to choose, I think the bearish argument's more likely here. And I think a lot of analysts will agree with that at this point. I think we're past the point in which there's a massive amount of irrationality in the market where people are kind of in denial. I think a lot of people understand that, you know, until we break those critical regions, this is, you know, definitely a bearish trend. That's good to see. And then you get the people who'd say things like, well, you know, if you admit that most people are bearish, why doesn't that make you bullish? Because there is a thought process in trading and investing in which lots of popular investors like to say things like, you know, the vast majority of people are always wrong. I would argue that's not necessarily the case. I think sometimes it is the case, right? Sometimes it is the case. However, if we're looking at something like 2018, I mean, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out this, right? If we're looking at something like 2018, you know, who was bullish in 2018? You know what I mean? Like, look what happened in 2018. Okay, so we went to 20K, right? Everyone lost like 50% of their money, like in 3 days, right? And then obviously they were in denial, and then we bounced up and they were in denial there. And then only like a week after that or 2 weeks after that, everyone lost another 50% of their money within like a month. And then we went sideways for like almost a full year. And then we dropped down another 50%. It's like, who was bullish in this period? No one. Everyone was like very, very, very depressed, you know, and very bearish. No one was bullish. I was there. I didn't see any bullishness there. You know, I was watching this chart. There was no bullishness in the market, and we still dropped 50%. So I think that whole mindset of like, you know, the majority is always wrong. I think very often that is correct. I think it's not always correct though. And when you fall back on that argument, what generally happens is you don't have any better arguments to fall back on. So you just fall back on these really kind of almost cringy quotes from like Warren Buffett in the 1980s that kind of don't really relate to the current situation, and it's kind of just feeding yourself hopium so you don't get depressed. That's how I see it. But yeah, we'll answer some questions now, I reckon, and then we'll get into traditional markets later. Let's see what we got. Oh, lots of questions. All right. I'll try get through a lot of them. I don't know if I'll be able to get through all of them, but... Okay, so... Can we take a look at MTRG? Yeah, we'll take a look at some altcoins quickly. I'll just skim through them. I don't know what this coin is, though. MTRG. USD. All right, it's a very unpopular coin. It's not actually on Binance, so I'll probably just leave that one. Zill's pumping. Yeah, Zill's interesting. Now, I've been talking about Zill a little bit in my Telegram group here. In fact, you can probably see this is probably an old setup that we had for Zill, and we caught a little bit of a bounce here on Zill. But yeah, pumping pretty hard. That's for daily charts. That's a pretty big, that's a pretty big pump. In fact, it's been acting very irrationally. I mean, you don't really see coins act like this very often in a bear market, don't you? I mean, went all the way down for like months and months and months, and then out of nowhere, pumps like 400%. And I was watching that and I was like, what is going on here? And we set up some targets on areas that you'd be interested in. So I think one of them was here. We caught a little 20% bounce there, and then we dropped back down. And now obviously we're having another bounce here. Nothing really to talk about there, just a rational price action. Do Cardano. What about the DXY? Yeah, that's interesting. We'll talk about DXY. So DXY, let me just take a look here. So the DXY right now is rejecting from a 5-year long resistance zone. And that's kind of it all. Again, all of this is connected. It all ties together, right? This stuff doesn't just happen for no reason. So basically the DXY is a chart that measures the strength of the US dollar in relation to other assets and currencies. So if the DXY goes up, it means the dollar is getting stronger. It means more people are kind of holding out in the dollar. If it goes down, it means the dollar is getting weaker. And so this is a trend with this trends with Bitcoin. So if this thing goes up, if the DXY goes up, Bitcoin generally goes down and vice versa. So what we're seeing now after an ascending wedge breakout is, the DXY facing some pretty tough resistance at $103 to $104. And you can see that is a bit of a strong rejection off that zone. And that rejection is stemming from the S&P 500 pumping. So what generally happens with DXY, this is a very important chart, by the way. If you don't know what it is, I highly recommend you listen closely here because you guys need to know this if you're going to be in the crypto market. So what happens with DXY is that basically when the stock markets, traditional markets, and crypto markets and everything are going down, people like to de-risk and they like to flock into cash. So basically when you sell your Bitcoin, what are you selling it for? Cash, right? You're selling it for dollars or whatever currency you use, right? So that's basically, if you're selling it for dollars, US dollars, you're pumping the DXY and doing that. So the DXY is a representation of a bunch of people selling their risk on assets like Bitcoin and stocks, etc., for cash. And so cash is getting stronger. And so obviously that means that Bitcoin goes down because it generally means if cash is getting stronger, people are selling risk on assets. Bitcoin is a risk on asset. And so if cash gets stronger, Bitcoin is generally going down, right? They kind of work, I don't know if ning and nang are the right way to, I don't even know what that phrase means, but it's like, one does one does the opposite, right? And that's Bitcoin and the DXY. So this thing facing major resistance and rejecting off major resistance at this point is the reason, or one of the reasons why Bitcoin, or one of the reactions to Bitcoin pumping and the S&P 500 pumping. But ultimately, when we look at something like the DXY, and this is why I don't like the bullish argument still, you can say, oh wow, DXY is at resistance, Bitcoin needs to pump, and like although you would be correct on paper, when you're looking at fundamentally what's happening right now in the global markets, well, interest rates are rising. What does that mean? Everyone's going to have less money to spend. What does that mean? People are going to have to sell their risk on assets to survive, right? So although technically speaking, we are seeing a rejection and that is bearish for DXY and hence bullish for Bitcoin in the short term, longer term, if we see a recession, people are going to be forced to sell their risk on assets and companies as well, by the way. And hence that's going to pump the DXY up, which is bad for Bitcoin longer term. So this is one of those situations where short term doesn't even matter what happens at all. Longer term, it's bearish for Bitcoin. So that's what the DXY is looking at right now. Now, where do I think we can go? We can easily go all the way back down to 100 in a short-term correction. Like, I really don't see how that couldn't happen. And that will lead to a Bitcoin pump. I can definitely foresee, like, in the next few weeks, maybe 2 weeks, I can definitely see Bitcoin going up a little bit. Would I say that's my prediction? No, I'm not predicting anything for short term, but what I am saying is that I can definitely see it happening. I mean, we have had a kind of a major downwards swoop here from the 29th of March, and we are in descending wedge, which is a bullish pattern, and we are at 37k, which as seen by the monthly chart earlier is a major support zone. So, I could see a swoop to the upside here on Bitcoin, and that could go into the DXY chart and how the DXY is rejecting here. Yeah. But yeah, that's for DXY. Let's look at Cardano. He said Cardano, so we'll look at that quickly. I want to try and skim through. I don't want to do too many altcoins because I know people have a lot of questions about the broader market, and people get bored about altcoins because obviously they want to just have their ones analyzed, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, Cardano's in a major downwards trend, obviously. Very, very major, actually. I wonder if we could draw some sort of downsloping resistance line here. You probably could if you spent long enough trying to get it perfectly, but maybe not, No, it doesn't look like it. It looks like we had the downsloping resistance. In fact, we traded this last month. That's what I'm talking about. We had a downsloping resistance last month, traded in walking exclusive, bought the breakout here, caught up to a 35% trade, rejected off the perfect line that we were looking at. That was a perfect trade. But as of right now, it was just forming a smaller version of what we did on the bigger version there. So it had a downsloping resistance, I'm assuming. Something like that, broke it to the upside. And so, yeah, this is too late to enter the trade. For sure, you've already missed the vast majority of the move. Could easily go back up to a retest of $1. $1 is a major critical resistance on ADA. So yeah, you missed the move there, I think. Good job. I'm glad there are still honest people like you in the game full of moon boys. I appreciate that, man. Whales are buying Cardano. It doesn't really look like it. Chart's kind of going down a lot. Maybe in the last day. Maybe they're just trading it. Every time it hits 40k level, it rejects and rejects hard sometimes. Talking about Bitcoin. Yeah, 40k is a major resistance level. So that's not a surprise at all. If we're going back to the Bitcoin chart, as I've said at the start of this video, there's a lot of dynamic resistance between 40k and 42k. 40k is also right now the bottom of the bear flag formation. And so there is the potential for Bitcoin to break upwards, do something like this, fake everyone out, and then reject downwards in a resistance support flip. So yeah, 40k is a very hard place to get over. That's why I think as of right now, it's too early to be bullish. I've got no problem with people being bullish short term, but I think at least wait for the wedge breakout. We're still within the structure, Anomaly. Yeah, that's right. There is a very strong Fibonacci channel that rejects Bitcoin at 39,000. Bitcoin is going down very soon. Fibonacci rules. Yeah, I use Fibonacci occasionally. I don't use it too often on the channel because I understand that a lot of people don't necessarily understand it. And I feel like if I try to bring up Fibonacci, this is the same thing with Ikomoku as well. When I go too deep into Ikomoku, I just end up rambling for 30 minutes and then everyone just loses interest. Wolves of Crypto is a bad channel, calling out other YouTuber like Crypto Rover where he can easily pinpoint the bullish divergence causing the pump. Okay, I think you're referring to in a video I did a couple of days ago. I brought up Crypto Rover. And I'll actually show you what it is. It's pretty funny. Crypto Rover basically, posted a blank chart with no technical analysis on it at all and said Bitcoin has a bullish divergence in a way to kind of hype up people. He drew the bullish divergence completely wrong. He drew it like this, when in fact it extends all the way back here. And I just thought that was funny because he had nothing else in the chart except for that one line, and he still managed to stuff up the straight line bullish divergence. I thought it was funny. But yeah, if you think I'm bad, go ahead and leave the chat. I thought TA was bullshit until I heard Wolves of Crypto and Mega Whale. Crazy. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, speaking of Mega Whale, stick around. This will be done in a minute. I know you guys don't like me shilling things, but we've got a Become a Trader course. Me and Mega Whale, just a good little leadway there. We've got a course here, 10-unit trading course. You can go ahead and learn how to trade using this course if you want to know how to do, not even trade too, if you want to know how to invest well, do analysis, understand crypto a bit better, and all financial markets as well. This course has everything for you. So it's got fundamental concepts like what is Bitcoin, why is Bitcoin the king, what is an altcoin, why do we use altcoins in Bitcoin, etc. Basics of technical analysis, everything like market patterns, indicators, patterns, etc. Explains all of that. And then it's also got market psychology, and it's also got how to find trades in general. So beautiful little course there. If you want you want to find out information about that, go ahead and email us here at cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com, and we'll send you the payment information and also what the course looks like and all the structures, etc. Website is in the description, so go ahead and check that out for sure. Really recommend that. It's coming out on May 16th, so not long now, and you can get a pre-order discount if you do it. So market seems like it's got a lot of immature energy, and it still seems tired but needs to have a nap. That's a good way to put it. Can you do Tron? Sure, I'll do Tron. Needs to have a nap. Well, it had a big nap in 2018, I can tell you that much. 2018, it went sideways for a year. If you guys think this is boring, you guys should have been in 2018. That was crazy boring. There was nothing to talk about. I wasn't around doing YouTube in 2018, but I remember watching the market and I was just absolutely sleeping. So yeah, Tron's a bit messy right now, I'd say. triangle formation that I drew here, I suppose it played out a little bit, but it's kind of just ended up being chopped up. So I suppose you could probably end up adjusting it to something like this. And that would probably be the formation you're looking at for the bottom line on Tron. It has already pumped up. See, I don't actually like getting into coins that have already pumped. Right, this thing is clearly pumped already. What we could say is that this was actually a broadening ascending wedge, and it has just broken that to the upside. You could argue that. And in that situation, you'd be looking for a take profit region like up here, which would line up with like a 10-cent take profit, which there is resistance to 10 cents, so it kind of makes sense. So you'd be looking at like 10 cents if you were in the trade already. However, if you're not in the trade, it's way too high risk, in my opinion, to get into Tron right now. Where do you think that downwards is going to happen? When do you think that downwards is going to happen? Well, I've spoken a lot about it happening in May, but again, it depends on what Bitcoin does in the short term. What's the price of Tron, bro? What's the price of Tron? Price of Tron right now is 8 cents, 8.9 cents. Go listen to Moonboy Kyle of Bitcoin Crypto. So he's responding to that other girl who said I was bad. Watch his stream of guy he doesn't trust. Thanks for the view, man. Thanks for the one set of ad revenue anyway. It's all good. I don't really care. The amount of irrationality I have to deal with doesn't matter. Love to Australia from Russia. I'm in NYC right now, though. Well, it's a good thing you're in NYC, man, because I can imagine being in Russia right now would be a bit of a terrible situation. I mean, I know the currency's literally gone to trash. Like, it's lost a lot of its value. So, it's good you're out of there, man. Noob question. Why SMA instead of EMA? Okay, so, one second. So, an SMA... So SMA and EMA is an umbrella term, first and foremost. So, an SMA... Let me get up a chart so I can show you a little bit better. So, an SMA is a simple moving average, and EMA is an exponential moving average. The only difference between the two is that, for example, an SMA is basically an equation that is averaging out. So, for example, with the 100 SMA, it's an equation that is averaging out the last 100 candles, just like that, and giving you the price action based on that, and adjust every day because the equation's changing because there's a new candle to take into the equation and one to take out. And exponential moving average does the same thing, but it puts more weight onto the most recent candles. So it's more adaptive to current price action. That's the only difference. Both are useful. Both have different uses. For example, SMAs generally are better with longer term trends. EMAs are generally better with either short term trends or absolutely macro trends, like the monthly chart. So for the monthly chart, for example, since obviously Bitcoin moved way more volatile back in the day than it does now, like 2013, you can use an EMA to adjust it more to current price action because current price action is more relevant to the way Bitcoin moves currently. Also in shorter term trends, an EMA is more relevant because, I don't know, just is. But yeah, that's the difference. SMA, simple moving average. Exponential moving average, EMA. Both very useful, and both should be used for sure. The downtrend, it's already happening. What do you think of Market Cipher? Market Cipher, in my opinion, is just a RSI on steroids with the MACD, a little bit of the MACD tossed in. I use it occasionally, not too often, because I feel like I can get all the information I get from Market Cipher from the RSI. Market Cipher does seem a little bit more beginner-friendly. It has direct signals, whereas the RSI, you have to point out those signals, but I feel like again, I can get all the information I need from the RSI and the MACD. Bitcoin to 20k easy, can even go to 10k. So here's an interesting thing, right? Now, I don't want to sound like a massive bear, right? Because I'm pretty bearish as it is, but I don't want to sound like an absolute idiot. But there is an argument to be made. Do I think it's a logical argument? No, I don't. But there is an argument to be made, just based off TA, that the bear flag here is actually targeting a 14k to 12k Bitcoin. Okay, so that would be 14k. And then if you look at the chart, and you might think that's ridiculous, and that's fine. But if you look at 14k on the chart, let me get to my Bitstamp chart, and where that target actually is, it kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? Because 14k, if we just get a horizontal line and go to 14k, right here, which is exactly where we saw the top in the 2019 mid-bear market bull cycle. Or not bull cycle, but like bullish phase. So yeah, 14k, like on paper, could happen. Now, would it be logical to predict that? No. Why? Because we've never lost for 200-week SMA and we can't predict things that haven't happened yet. So I think it's possible, but I don't think it's logical to predict. I think right now the lowest price point you should be predicting is for 200-week SMA. Now, if we get to the 200-week SMA and we're very weak and everything's so clearly going to go down further, then we can start to make those predictions. But at this point, Yeah, let's just stick with 200. I think we're going to 20k judging by the charts. Same here. Well, not 20k exactly, but a little bit higher, mid 20ks. Don't call out Crypto Rover. He really identified this pump with his TA. Oh, okay. She's joking, guys. She's joking. Oh, okay. Dara. Oh, okay. Nice, Dara. Nice. I was a bit like concerned there. I was like, is this guy actually supporting Crypto Rover? Like, come on, man. That's not good. But yeah, no, she's definitely joking. Yeah, that's good. All right. I got cleaned out last bull run. Won't happen again. You got to be bad at something first before you get good. 100% agree. 100% agree. Right? And we teach you that stuff, like in Crypto Academy. I don't want to show it again, but it's all about progress, right? You're going to lose. You're going to lose when you start out. It's just like anything. It's just like first time you play soccer. You probably can't even kick the ball. Your coordination's terrible, etc. Same thing with trading. You've got to be prepared to lose a bunch of money before you win. That is why there is use in paper trading. Paper trading is the kind of trading without trading with real money. You trade with fake money. And I know people don't like doing that because they always want to have something at stake because it makes them feel good, and trading without money makes it's boring or whatever. You can either paper trade, or if you've got enough money, you can trade with a small percentage of your portfolio in practice. There's always uses in that. And I do I'm not just saying this because I am a mentor, or some people would see me as a mentor. I'm saying I do genuinely think finding a good mentor is one of the best things you can do. In soccer, why do you have a soccer coach? He's a mentor. Anything else in your life, you can find a mentor. In crypto, it should be the same. However, the unfortunate part is the vast majority of people who claim to be some sort of mentor in crypto have literally no idea what they're talking about. So that is the downfall. And that's why, going solo and being a true, I guess you could say lone wolf or whatever, which is topical to the channel, is sometimes a better option. But if you can find someone who you truly trust, and I'm not saying that should be me, by the way, because I understand people have different opinions. If you find someone who you personally think is really good, even if it's bloody Crypto Rover, try your best to take his advice. Try your best to, use what he's saying, but don't fall into the trap. And the same thing goes to me. Do not fall into the trap of relying on what he says, right? Take it into consideration, apply it to your own analysis, but you need to cross-analyze. Because even with me, I have an opinion. I have a very clear opinion on Bitcoin. I have a very clear outlook of what's going to happen. However, I could be wrong. Right? And if you look at the chart and you cross-analyze my opinion, you could very well find something that I'm not seeing. And that could very well change my opinion. So you need to be able to do it yourself, right? And you need to be learning how to do it yourself. That's why I created this course. I understand people don't have money to pay for courses. Like some people, would prefer to learn for free. What I will say is that learning for free is 100% possible. I'm not denying that. I learned for free, right? But it took a long time and it took a lot of effort. So that's all I'm saying. If you want it all in one place, you got to look into courses for sure. Look into the right ones though, because half of them are just looking to scam you and take your money. Crypto Rover calls out bullish daily. That's correct, because he gets more engagement if you're bullish, right? If I was bullish on all my videos, I'd get way more views and I'd get way more subscribers. Why don't I do that? Because I don't want to be a kind of a sellout, and I want to actually have an accomplishment in my life, not just scamming people out of their money. I'm going to be very patient this time. Patience is key. Just remember, guys. You don't lose money from being bearish, right? I say that quite often. You don't lose money from being bearish. You lose money from buying in when you shouldn't be buying in. That's an important point to make. People don't take that seriously enough. I don't lose money if okay, here's the thing. I don't lose money if Bitcoin goes to 47k and I haven't bought in, right? You lose money every time you buy into one of these 6 dead cat bounces that has happened. By the time we get to 48k and by the time one of them works, you would have probably, had more money than people who are bullish on all of them, even though they're going to be sitting here claiming they're correct because they lost money every single time. Okay, so that's an interesting thing. You don't lose money when you're bearish. Being cautious is the best thing you can do in a financial market. It is not a game. You can get burnt very easily, right? Now, again, a thing that I don't understand generally is that a lot of people say, well, you were sitting on the sidelines and you didn't make any money on any of these pumps. It's like, I never sit on the sidelines. I'm a trader. I trade for a living. I'm trading every second day, basically, right? So I'm not on the sidelines. Just because I don't have any long-term positions doesn't mean I'm on the sidelines, right? I'm trading right now. I don't have any trades active currently, but I'm certainly going to be looking for them later today. That's my job. That's what I do. So yeah, I'm not missing out on anything. I'd rather scalp trade, and then if I get confident in the market and it actually breaks through critical resistance, then I'll enter some long-term positions or longer-term positions. Question, how do you know if something is about to pump? Well, there are many ways to know if something is about to pump. Now, The best way to know if something's about to pump, in my opinion, is via market patterns and candlestick formations. A lot of people trade volume. A lot of people trade divergences. I use a massive amount of all of those, but I think market patterns are generally the most important. Market patterns are, in a way, kind of the cobblestone of trading, if that's a phrase. I don't know. The basis of trading, like the most important thing. Market patterns are extremely reliable, right? They play out, for example, descending wedge formation. We can know just out of this being a descending wedge formation and no other information included, just descending wedge formation alone, that this will break to the upside around 73% of the time. Okay? And then if we added in other analysis, we can bolster that percentage. So, and then, you gotta put in the bullish evidence and put in the bearish evidence and then try and assess what the probability is. Nothing's certain, but you can get very good probabilities. Now, people who trade things like market cipher, it's like you're relying on basically nothing. When you trade things like a market pattern, you're seeing exactly where the breakout point is. You will see a reaction when it does break out. It will accelerate and you will see a rejection zone. Why do you think the price is not moving right now? This candle has been open for an hour and a half. The price has not moved out of a 100 to 200 USD range because it is at resistance, because this market pattern is playing out as expected. The best way to find breakouts is via market patterns for sure. 100%. 100% market patterns are the most important part of trading. Followed by candlestick patterns, and then followed by indicators, and then followed by things like volume and the volume profile, and all the other random on-chain charts you want to look at. But everything is very important together, but if you're trying to list it down to one thing, market patterns. What do you look for with scalps? What I look for with scalps is one of two things. Now, there's two ways you can go about scalp trading. There's one way in which you're looking for reversals, okay? So, for example, you can identify... Let me get a good example here. I haven't looked at any of these charts for a long time. So here's FTM. Here's a good example of FTM, right? So there's two ways you can go for scalp trading. One of which is identifying critical support and trying to get a bounce off of that support on the way down. This is in a bear market, by the way. And the other way is drawing a market pattern, waiting for that market pattern to break out to the upside and entering once that upside break is kind of made. So FTM is a great example, right? So we've lost major support. We've actually lost major support. We had major support at 93 cents. We also had major support up here at $1.22. These are the two red lines, right? On paper, if we were, for example, let me rewind this chart. Okay, so say this is where we are right now. On paper, you would say, and it didn't play out with FTM due to fundamental issues, and that it's not kind of a direction of the price action. It was fundamental issues that made it drop below. So if this was a normal chart, it would have played out like this, right? So what you would say is that, well, we've got major support at $1.22, which we saw from the December bottom. We also saw that from an accumulation region in September. And so what we can say is that, well, here's how we're going to play FTM. We're going to either wait for a breakout of this downtrending resistance line and go for a higher trade position. Like, for example, take a trade to resistance at like $1.77. So you'd either wait for something like this, buy the breakout and then trade to $1.77 and then sell. Or you can wait for a swing down to support and then buy the support break or buy the support hold, I should say, bullish reactions off that support. You can buy that and then sell upon a retest of the market pattern there. And then you can buy back in if it breaks out. So again, let me label it down to two things. You can either trade trend reversals via market patterns, or you can trade swings off supports via dead cat bounces, essentially. That's two ways you can trade in a bear market. In a bull market, you can trade anyway, because trading in a bull market is the easiest thing you'll ever do. All you need to do is buy anything and it will go up, literally. There may not have been bullish, but nobody thought we would dump under 6K. So they invested at 6A under the assumption that they'd then get wrecked another... Yeah. Okay, so nobody thought we'd dump under 6K in BTC, right? That's correct, yeah. But we did, yeah. I kind of know what you're saying. I'm not really fully understanding, though. Not at all. He's a great guy, just saying he's a moon boy. Can we take a look at Dusk? Possible falling wedge from all-time high, maybe a trade opportunity. Yeah, let's look at it. Sure. I don't know what this analysis is. But, is this the right chart? Dusk. Possible falling wedge from all-time high. So you mean a falling wedge from, like, up here, right? Well, it'd have to do something like that. Maybe. I don't know if that's a falling wedge per se. I think it's a little bit too large to be a falling wedge. I also think the angle of trajectory for the downward side is a little bit too steep for it to be a falling wedge. If it was like this, I would consider that a falling wedge. I also don't think there's enough confidence in this second retest here for this to be a falling wedge. So no, I don't think that's a falling wedge. However, if you really looked into this coin, you could probably find something worth trading. Like a downsloping line like this, right? And we have actually broken that to the upside upon that interest rates decision. And so, yeah, we've seen some sort of, I mean, it's almost a falling wedge. Not really. I wouldn't be too confident in that. There's no real clear market pattern there on Dusk. And I'm also not seeing... what we do see here on Dusk is a bounce off of the support that came from the 2021 kind of bull phase here, a reaccumulation phase. So I suppose it was bullish, but again, you've probably missed the bus here a little bit. BTC next move. Yeah, we've just gone over BTC at the start of a live stream. Go ahead and swing back there and you can check that out. Let's move on here. I don't know what's going on with Dara, but Dara's having a bit of a killing spree in the chat here. Thoughts on Market Cypher? Yeah, I already kind of answered this question earlier. I'll just answer it again quickly. I think Market Cypher is good for beginners, but as someone who is experienced in TA, you can get all the information you get from Market Cypher from the MACD and the RSI in more detail and less delayed. Bull flag on BTC 1 hourly chart. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. I haven't looked at the short term today at all. Let's delete all these indicators here. All right. Bull flag. I suppose you're referring to this. I wouldn't necessarily call that a bull flag. I mean, you could technically, but a bit of a messy one. No, I don't know, man. I don't think that's a bull flag, to be honest with you. It's not a clear ascending. It's not a clear ascending channel. I mean, if we descending channel, if we went on a shorter term time frame, we could be able to find it. But as for the 1 hourly, I don't necessarily see that. I understand why you think though, because there is the downward structure after a sharp move to the upside. It's just not a channel as we typically see it. Yeah, we're still rejecting from resistance here on BTC. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. Lots of doji candles on a high price, which isn't necessarily a good sign. Moving back to the daily there. Okay, where do you think CRO will finish up this month? Is that the crypto.com coin? Yeah, it is. Whoa, bit of a steep drop there. Yeah, CRO not looking good right now on the Coinbase chart at least. I mean, is there a chart we can get more price action on this? Yeah, there is. Okay. Okay. Well, we do have some support still stemming from this like 2021 March region. I suppose you could say that's support, vague area of support. But as of right now, we're kind of in a little bit of a no man's land where we're not really holding any kind of support besides this one wick here. So it's very weak. It's a very weak zone, I'd say, off the bat. And then on top of that, we're also rejecting right now. We've also got a lot of resistance above us from like the November 2021 period and also the January 2022 period, so only a few months ago. Right now, we're coming up on resistance, and I wouldn't be recommending entering a trade unless we're able to break back into this range and start doing things like that. That's when you can start trading this again. But as of right now, it looks like a macro structure breakdown, to be honest. Where do I think we'll finish this month? Hard to say. In like 5 minutes, it's hard to say. If you could only pick 2 or 3 indicators that you had to stick with, what would they be? I don't like questions like that because I'm never going to have to do that. But again, indicators is difficult. Indicators. I'd probably use something. I think MACDs, you can kind of understand MACD without the MACD even being there. RSI is very important. Let me get some water quickly. Okay, so what I'd look at, I think, if I had to pick 2 to 3 indicators, first and foremost, Ikomoku Cloud, because the Ikomoku Cloud is the ultimate indicator. I don't use it too much in these videos because I'll talk about it for 3 years, but it has a lot of things in there, including moving average. So Ikomoku Cloud, RSI maybe, and then I'd probably use MAs, right, if I can count that. I don't know if that's allowed or not in this hypothetical scenario, but I'd only use MAs because you can use like 50 billion of them, right? There's many different MAs you can use, but I would never pick 2 or 3 indicators because you don't need to do that, ever. You cannot ignore the risks of this market and induce people to fantasy bull run. That is not going to happen at this moment. Are you a full-time trader? Yes. If you mean, do I do anything else other than crypto? By definition, yes, I would consider myself a full-time trader. If you're asking, do I have any other employment? No, I don't. If the DXY pulls back to 100, that might decrease the chances of Bitcoin dumping in May. No? Yes, it would. Okay, so DXY pulling back to 100 will definitely decrease for Bitcoin dumping in May. But again, that dump doesn't need to happen in May, right? That's just speculation. I never like to be precise with date ranges. It could happen in June. Who knows? Could happen in July. But the point is, it looks like it's going to happen. The date range isn't really important, but yeah, that would definitely decrease the chances of it for sure. Thoughts on loopring, fundamentally or technically? Because I can do technically. I just don't know what the ticker is. Let me look where the ticker is. Loopring. Oh, loopring, yeah. Oh, so LRC. I think I've looked at LRC a lot, actually. I should have something. Oh, I have nothing drawn for it. That's weird. I look at it quite a bit, actually. So essentially, I don't mind it right now. The reason being, and I talk about this in my Telegram group occasionally with loopring. Did it last month. The reason why I don't mind it right now is because the major support zone that we are holding is similar, or at least in the same region of this major accumulation zone we saw from January all the way through to May 2021, and also here in August 2021. So for that reason, what I would say is that so long as loopring is above 64 cents or somewhere like 60 cents to 65 cents, it is still within the macro bullish structure. As soon as it loses that, it's going to go straight downwards towards bear market prices. As for the current price action, shorter term price action, what we'd be looking at really, just off of market patterns, I don't want to look at indicators, it takes a long time, is a massive downtrending line like that. That's actually decent. I'm going to save this chart here. And what you'd be looking for there, obviously, is the compression between 64 cents and that yellow line. And then obviously, if you get a breakout of that yellow line on paper, without me looking at any other indicators, you could probably take a trade to, say, the nearest resistance, which is 81 cents. So again, if we break out of this downtrending line, say down here somewhere, you'd enter on a breakout, trade to 81, stop loss below 64. On paper, without looking at indicators, that seems like a good trading plan. So loopring doesn't look too bad. There's some free content for you guys. That's what I do on my Telegram group every day, multiple times a day, sometimes. More extensive than that, obviously. Did you see MicroStrategy reveal to the public markets that they will be liquidated if Bitcoin price falls below 21K? They don't even hold real Bitcoin. It's mostly BTC derivatives. I did. I don't know the exact price. I do know that it's not, I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I do know that it's not spot. I do know that a lot of it is derivatives, and I do know that they will basically get wrecked if Bitcoin drops below 20K, which people say, well, that means it's not going to go below 20K. It's like, well, actually, no, it doesn't, guys. It means it's unlikely to go below 20K, but it's not certain, right? They can easily get liquidated. Wasn't Michael Saylor the same guy lost like $1.3 billion in the dot-com crash? He's lost money before. He can do it again. I don't like how people praise Michael Saylor. Here's the Bitcoin chart. Here's Bitcoin address list, right? This is the distribution of Bitcoin in the market. I think I just got a super chat. I'll go ahead and check that out after I look at this. Thanks for that. So here's the distribution of Bitcoin in the market, okay? So you can see that the top 0.01% of Bitcoin holders hold 42% of the Bitcoin that will ever exist. The top 2% of Bitcoin holders hold 95% of the Bitcoin that will ever exist. When people praise Michael Saylor for buying Bitcoin, it's like, dude, you're just praising people who are like going to screw you over in the future because they're going to hold all the Bitcoin. Talk about wealth inequality. Everyone likes to talk about wealth inequality in the dollar. Look at Bitcoin. The wealth inequality in Bitcoin is crazy. It's worse than the dollar. It's way worse than the dollar. People act like in the space like, I don't have anything against these people, but like Anthony Pompliano, like Pomp, right? He acts like Bitcoin is so ready to be adopted right now and that everyone should just use Bitcoin and that legal tender right now, make Bitcoin the legal tender in the US. It's like, really, you're going to make Bitcoin the legal tender in the US at this wealth inequality? Do you want to absolutely decimate the middle classes and below? Do you want to decimate them? Like, it's just ridiculous to me. You will destroy everyone but the top 1% if you do this. Like, you cannot like, majorly adopt this coin right now. It's not in a good state for mass adoption. I understand it's a free market. I understand things like this happen when something is emerging. But to say it's ready right now to be adopted is just ridiculous. It's definitely not. In the future, I 100% think it will be. Just not right now. It's too early. There's too much wealth inequality in Bitcoin. So MicroStrategy, yeah, they could get liquidated. Who knows? He's lost money before. He can do it again. Do I think it's likely? I don't think it's likely, but it could happen. I think he's a bit stupid, to be honest. I mean, if he was smart, let's be real. If Michael Saylor was actually smart and he actually knew what he was doing, like maybe he knows a lot about Bitcoin fundamentals, for sure. You're right. There's no denying that. He probably knows a lot more than me about Bitcoin fundamentals. I'm admitting that. But if he was actually smart, he wouldn't have been buying millions of dollars of Bitcoin at 60K before a 50% correction. You can say, oh yeah, hold forever, all you want, but no one wants Bitcoin to drop 50%. And if they knew it was going to do that, they wouldn't have bought, right? So it's not just about DCAing, it's about applying logic to some situations. He's not a god, he's just a person. Same with me, just a person. All-time high prediction, 24 to 25k. Yeah, 24, 25, 26, anything like that would be the bear market bottom prediction, not the all-time high prediction, the bear market bottom prediction. Surely market makers will liquidate MicroStrategy to swoop up cheap BTC. No, that is possible. That's happened to many people, like Justin Sun, for example. Justin Sun is a major, I think he's Chinese, very, very big Chinese investor. He's a whale and a half. He's been liquidated on many occasions by coordinated attacks by the other market makers or manipulators, whatever you want to call them, who basically target him, understand where his position is through sources, I don't know, to do with his wallet addresses, and liquidate him on purpose and then pump the price back up. They literally take him out. Like, they've done it before. It's happened to people before. It's not a new thing. So yeah, could it happen to MicroStrategy? Certainly. It's unlikely, but it could happen. Wavecoin view, please. Sure thing. We can look at Wave. I think Wave's already had a rally though. Like very recently, so I don't know what we're going to find, but we can look at it. We'll just go on this chart. Yeah, wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh, it's Waves. It's this one. Yeah, this one went up massively. And it's already had a reaction. I wouldn't, honestly, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be touching any coin that looks like this ever. That's my analysis on Waves. Very irrational price action. There's no justification for stupid price action like that, and it just makes me uncomfortable holding positions in it. Because, you know, if you're holding a coin that does that, there's something going on behind the scenes that you're not really fully aware of, isn't there? I did Cardano early in the video, so go ahead and check that out. Do you think CRO is dead? I think fundamentally it's definitely not dead. There still is a use case, especially in a bull market when people do adopt crypto at a much faster rate. For crypto cards, I know that Swipe is another project that does that a lot. Fundamentally, it's not dead. It's very popular. Advertisers everywhere. Price action doesn't really matter with coins like that because people still use the product regardless. As long as it's not absolutely dead, which it's not at this point. But most altcoins will look terrible by like the end of the year, so don't worry about that. Monero, yeah, we can check out Monero. I think it's XRM, correct? XMR, right? Yeah. Yeah, so Monero is one of those coins that's still kind of hanging on to its range. And as a trader, I don't like coins like this. I like to see coins that are at a pivotal moment. Let's just drink another bit of water here. I like to see coins that are at a pivotal moment. So a moment in which they're about to make a decision, either on a clear and defined support zone or a clear structure. I don't see any clear structure here for XRM. And for that reason, I don't think it's of interest to me at this point in time. I don't even need to look at it any further than that. So what is the first thing I look at as a trader? Market patterns, straight off the bat. Where is the major support? Where is the major resistance? Is it in a market pattern? As of right now, I can't see a market pattern on XRM, and I can't see easily definable major support resistance zone. So I don't like it that much. I guess you could say this is a support zone, but it's very rough. You know, I guess you could say that's a support zone, but again, it's very rough. And you can see a lot of wicks below that as seen throughout the price action in the past. So 138, yeah, I guess that's a major support. But again, we're very far away from that as well. I think Bitcoin will go to 1 million if the war and Corona ends. I mean, eventually it will. I don't know about being soon. Maybe like in a decade. Who knows though? Very hard to predict. XTZ. By the time Bitcoin gets to $1 million, people won't care about the dollar value anyway. Like that's the way I look at it. You know, it's like people are like, oh, I can't wait for Bitcoin to be $1 million. It's like, you know, people aren't going to care about the dollar value when Bitcoin gets to $1 million because it'll be so widely adopted at that point that it wouldn't even matter. You just care about how many sats it is. Like how many, you know, you'd be measuring things in sats, not dollars. Yeah, Teslos looks okay. I mean, it would have looked better a few days ago because it was still hanging on to this critical support zone. It's actually lost that right now. It's coming up for a resistance support flip. So at this point, unless it can get back above $2.80, I wouldn't be looking for anything on Teslos. If it can get back above $2.80, you could be looking for something like this, where you see like these resistance lines form a new trend. Okay, so gets back above $2.80, could do something like that, and then come for a breakout. But until it gets back above $2.80, it's not going to do anything like that, in my opinion. And so just waiting for a scenario like that to happen is the best thing you can do. Have you seen that 20-week and 100-week may cross in a few months, which could lead to a crash in the price like it has done the last two times they crossed? Yeah, I've seen many things like that. for sure. Many death crosses. And many death crosses that have only happened in previous bear markets. And so when people say it's going to happen again, it kind of infers it's going to happen again and Bitcoin's going to go into a full bear mode. So yeah, many things like that. Just like the 3-day chart that I look at a lot. I like Wolves because he makes complex charts. He has to remove lines for people like you and Crypto Rover. For me, it's for a lot more of the lines and more info, every support. Yeah, so you can't simplify something like crypto too much. Now, I try my best to simplify it when I'm looking at altcoins like this because I'm simplifying it not only for you guys, but for myself, right? Because, you know, it's all well and good overcomplicating things, but if you want to be efficient and you want to scan through charts as quickly as possible, you need to have your easily identifiable things. So, as I've said before, the first thing I'm looking for when I'm looking at a chart for the first time is macro structure, right? Where is the support, where is the resistance, and also market patterns. Indicators don't matter to me. When I'm looking at a chart for the first time for a 5-minute look, I'm not looking at where the bull market support band is. I'm not looking where the Gaussian channel is. I'm just looking, okay, is it in a descending channel? Is it in a, what's the market pattern? Is it in a descending wedge, descending channel, triangle? What is it? Head and shoulders pattern, you know, M formation, W formation, and where is the support? That's the only thing I look at, right? When I'm looking at altcoin for the first time. And based off of that, you can then branch out and do extra analysis later if it looks good, right? For Tezos, for example, the first thing I noticed when I looked at this chart is a massive M formation. That's bearish for me. That screams bearish for me, okay? But I understand that long-term bearish doesn't necessarily mean you can't trade it. So I looked in closer and I said, okay, even given the fact that this is bearish longer term, I can still see a potential scenario. It's not certain, it's potential in which Tezos can kind of form some sort of triangle here and maybe break to the upside. Maybe. That's what I said. Wavecoin view, please. So yeah, I did wave a few minutes ago. Go ahead and check that out. BTC on 15 minutes doesn't look good now. I don't necessarily care too much on the short term. Bitcoin will hit 10K for a brief period. Maybe. It's possible. But, you know, possible but not likely, I'd say. Same with 14K. Okay, my lowest... Okay, here's my lowest worst case scenario for Bitcoin. As I just said, bear flag breakdown, bear flag target plays out, we go to 14K. That is the absolute worst case scenario I can see for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin drops below 14K, I doubt it will recover, honestly. I really don't think it will because that's the whole macro structure gone. But I think 200-week SMA is the likely scenario. I think 14K is a bit low, to be honest, but it could happen. It could happen. It's possible. Appreciate the stream. Was curious to know what was your case for bearishness when Bitcoin was around 60K. Thanks, mate. Sure thing. I can show you that. Now, again, I'm not going to be able to remember exactly what I was talking about 5 months ago. It was a while ago at this point, but I can show you the main reason why I was worried about Bitcoin at that point. Okay, so what I saw was very clearly, okay, so this is what I remember. Bearish divergence. Massive bearish divergence, similar to what we saw here. The reason why I was concerned about it, right, is because I was aware that we'd seen bearish divergence before, and I was aware that we saw it in a similar fashion before, and it immediately led to a drop. Right, so here in January 2021, all the way to May 2021, massive bearish divergence. It led to a top, okay? Then also, we had in July 2021 to September 2021, bearish divergence. It led to a top. It led to a crash downwards, right? And then also we had here a bearish divergence starting to form. It was a sign of weakness straight off the bat. And then I also realized that, hey, you know, sorry, my throat's a bit weird. Hey, we're forming a bearish divergence basically in a double top formation on a macro scale, which is really not a good sign. And then I was like, okay, this is getting a little bit icky here. And then I saw this drop here, which absolutely wrecked me out, right? I saw an evening star formation on Bitcoin, which is a reversal candlestick formation. One of the worst candlestick formations you can have. I said, okay, I gave it the benefit of the doubt at that point, but I started saying after that happened, okay, this doesn't look super good, guys. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe start de-risking a little bit. That's what I first said. Maybe start de-risking a little bit. I was still macro bullish. Okay, I was still saying Bitcoin's gonna go up. I was still saying it's a bull market. I wasn't prepared to say it was a bear market right here. You just can't do that. But as soon as this floor fell out from under us and we went downwards to here, right? Halfway through this drop at 63K, I was like, nah, that's a lower low. That's not good. Bitcoin's not looking good right now. And then when we dropped down to 58 and we lost that 58 level, I was like, okay, this is very obviously a bear market. That's what I looked at for Bitcoin. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, but I honestly can't really remember it too much. It's been a while. But yeah, first time I said sell was 66K. Now, again, people get confused here because I say that every video. I said not every video, but I say it pretty often. And I wasn't bearish at 66K by any means. You know, I was still bullish at 66K for sure. Like I still thought it was a bull market. But I said, de-risk for now, and if it breaks the all-time high, you can just buy back a little bit higher. You'd rather have that extra security. That's how caution pays off, guys. Caution does pay off in this market. It really does pay off. Let's move on. Mercury retrograde goes square on the May 10th, still in effect early June. The lines... Okay, this man really just said Mercury retrograde in a TA channel. I respect your beliefs, man, but I'm not an astrology believer. I don't think astrology has anything to do with crypto. But you guys can do what you want there. I'm sure it maybe coincidentally it does. I don't know. I sold my CRO at 44 AUS and lost heaps. Was bearish. Did I do the right thing in your opinion? I don't know. I don't know because I don't measure things in AUD. If you told me a USD value of the sell, I'd be able to help you out. I don't know exactly what 44 AUS is in USD. I'm not sure. I assume that's somewhere near the bottom though. And in that case, hard to say. What's the price in the course? Go ahead and check us an email at cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com and you can find out all the relevant information in that regard. We don't release any of the business information to anyone who's not interested in the business, as it leads to copycatting and people setting up fake businesses that revolve around the same thing. And then they just copy our website and copy our documents and all that. It acts as a deterrent towards scammers. Double bottom at 33k. How low as it goes? So you think there's going to be a double bottom at 33k on Bitcoin? Possible. It's possible. Yeah, like I'm not denying anything like that. Could happen. I would say if we get to 33k, we would have lost enough support for us to just plummet straight for the floor to 30k. So I don't think it's likely at all. To be honest, I think, if anything, a bottom at 37k is actually a decent argument to make in the short term. General advice request. How much leverage do you use on most of your trades? Why do you use that amount? I don't use any leverage on most of my trades. I do occasionally, very occasionally, trade with leverage at massive macro reversal points. Not very often. And I don't recommend leverage trading to the vast majority of the population because of the reason that you can see on the Bitcoin chart by looking at 10 seconds, there are massive scam wicks that happen occasionally that are not based on TA that easily flush people out. Very, very simply put, it is very risky to trade on high leverage. Even on medium leverage, it's very risky to trade on, and especially if you don't know what you're doing. When you use leverage, it turns into more of a casino rather than trading, in my opinion. It can turn into a casino rather than trading. You have to be very experienced to trade with leverage. It adds another element that I don't see as necessary to trading. In my opinion, crypto is already volatile enough as it is, right? I mean, look at last month's trading results for Walk Exclusive, my Telegram group. 463% profit in 15 trades, right? If that's not volatile enough, I don't know what you guys want. That's a very volatile market. You're not going to get much more than that. If you trade with leverage, you're just putting yourself up for unnecessary risk. Now, I'm not against leverage trading. I have nothing against leverage trading. I just think it's unnecessary for most people. However, if you are into leverage trading, and not only that, if you are into spot trading as well, go ahead and check out BitGet, right? Because BitGet, in my opinion, is one of the best exchanges. I use BitGet, my exchanges list. I use BitGet and Binance, right? The reason why I don't like using Binance though, right? The reason why I use BitGet occasionally rather than Binance is because Binance has a massive amount of scam wicks on their exchange. Right, wicks downwards on Bitcoin that flush you out of any trade position, whether it be leverage or not, based on nothing rational, based on the exchange's inner issues. Also, BitGet has optional KYC options. So, tax time's coming up. I don't want to say anything, but if you want to get a little bit of a better deal on your taxes, I'm not advocating for tax evasion. I don't personally tax evade, but you can work your way around certain things. Using a non-KYC exchange. Obviously, eventually you're going to have to withdraw that money to your bank account. Eventually, you're going to have to pay tax. I don't think it's logical to tax evade, but, you can definitely delay the process. And non-KYC also means that if there are certain restrictions in your country that allow you not to do futures, for example, you can do it on BitGet. There's no KYC option. So go ahead and check out my referral link for BitGet in the description below. It would really support the channel a lot. I am in partnership with BitGet. I'm in partnership by my own request, by the way. I requested partnership with them, so don't say that I'm selling out. I literally love this exchange. It's a lot better than most major exchanges. Same fees as Binance, no scam wicks, no KYC. What can go wrong with that? I watch 6 to 7 YouTubers daily. You're one of the best. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, man. What do you think about leverage trading in crypto markets? Riskier than Forex? Yeah, of course, because obviously crypto markets are much more volatile than Forex, and so leverage trading in crypto markets is much more volatile, much more risky. Wavecoin review. I've already done Wavecoin, man. I've said that a few times now. So go ahead and check out Wavecoin. I just scroll back in the video. You'll find it. Bullish cross on the MACD. Yeah, correct. There is a bullish cross on the MACD on the daily chart for Bitcoin. It is obviously bullish as per the bullish cross. However, it could flatten out like we saw on the weekly chart. Too early to tell. We need to see a breakout of that descending wedge formation in order to confirm anything short-term bullish at all. Nice. Learned something new. No worries. Appreciate the stream. Was curious to know what your case for bearishness was when Bitcoin was at 60k. I think I've already been through this stuff, maybe. BTC will most likely get a small pump and may reset the trend based around the DXY and the S&P 500. That's correct. It most likely will get a small pump. It's already had a small pump, right? As to whether that continues, I don't know, but that's due to the fact that interest rates were risen and the market had priced that in. Wavecoin, mate, I've already looked at Wavecoin. I hope more people find your channel. Solid technical analysis. Stay unbiased and honest. We appreciate what you do. Yeah, I appreciate you guys for sure. Appreciate you. I wouldn't be doing this live stream if you guys weren't here. I'd have no one to talk to. So, what do you think about Luna? I'll check it out. I'll check out Luna. So Luna's one of these coins that hasn't really had a bear market. There are coins like this. Solana's another one. I could probably name a couple more if I had the charts up, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But there are coins that just generally just don't have bear markets for some reason. I mean, this will have a bear market. I can tell you that right now. But as of current, it's acting against Bitcoin, which is why people like it, right? People like things that aren't fully correlated to Bitcoin at all possible times, because if something is not correlated to Bitcoin, you need to worry about this chart only. You don't need to be worrying about the Bitcoin chart when you're in the middle of a trade, right? Because a big problem with traders, big problem with my trades personally, and everyone's trades in crypto, is you'll be in a trade, everything looks good, and then Bitcoin will do something stupid that have nothing to do with your coin, nothing to do with your trade, and destroy your trade, right? So that's why people like Luna right now. That's why the attention is lingering, because when you see a divergence from the major trend, you see that divergence stick around, because a lot of people are picking up on Luna being individual, I guess you could say. And so right now we are forming a new support zone on Luna. That support zone is coming from around $77. And so as long as Luna remains above $77, it is remaining independent from Bitcoin, and it is remaining a very tradable coin. But this is a terrible place for long-term buying, if that's what you're saying. Again, much like every coin like now, a lot of coins like now, right now it has a major downtrading line. If we break that to the upside, we could easily see a trade up to like 100 USD probably. So yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I'm going to skip through a few of these guys. All right, if you spam the chat with Luna View, I'm just going to block you, man. So stop doing that. Hello, bro. What do you think of AXS? Let me check that out. Yeah, no, look, it's lost macro structure. There's no clear identifiable support zone as what I'm looking at right now. Doesn't look very good. The macro structure needed to hold at 44 USD for it to be looking good for trading. And since there's no major support zone until like probably down here at this block here at 11 USD, there's no real dead cat bounce swing potential as well. So I'd be looking for it when it's at 10 to 11 USD. I'd look for a little scalp trade, but at this point, it could go up, could go down. We don't know because there's no major support near. Digibyte. I'll look at Digibyte. Sure thing. We're going to wrap it up soon, I reckon, guys. So chuck in your last few questions and I'll try to get through them. Digibyte. Here we go. I haven't looked at this chart. So what we have is a resistance support flip, which is great. Great to see. We also, I don't think we have anything really of importance other than that, other than maybe a potential resistance line that we need to be breaking like that, which would form another descending wedge formation. Not really too much I can tell you based on the immediate structure that I'm seeing on Digibyte. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Some coins, you know, when I'm looking at it in a live stream, I've only got a few minutes really to capture the engagement of the audience. Otherwise, people lose interest. And so I don't want to spend too long looking at a coin that's confusing. If a coin's clear cut and a coin looks good, like loopring before, that looked great. You know, I'm going to talk about it, but I can't find anything off the bat on Digibyte, so I'm just going to stop looking. Hi, Wolf. If Bitcoin is following the same 4-year cycle theory like the previous one, is it fair to assume that we should have had a blow off top, but we didn't? So why is it fair to assume we'll see the 200-week SMA? Okay, so that's an interesting question. I get that quite a bit. Let me go to the weekly chart and bring all that up and answer that for you. Okay, so there's a few ways to answer this. Get up 200-week up. Okay, so I don't measure the 4-year cycle based on price action. I know you're kind of using that against me here, which is fine, because you're saying that it's going to go to the 200-week SMA, which is, of course, a price point, but it is not a direct price point. Now, when people say blow off top, a blow off top is subjective. I would argue Bitcoin did have a blow off top, right? What is a blow off top? What do you mean by blow off top, right? You don't mean we go up, then we consolidate, and then we blow off top. Because in 2017, by that logic, we didn't have a blow off top. We just went up the whole time, right? In 2013, you could argue we had a blow off top because we consolidated and then we had a blow off top, right? But there's no such thing really as a blow off top. We just have bull markets. So I think a blow off top is a kind of like a narrative created by the bulls to say that, guys, it's not over yet. Trust me, we need to see a blow off top, even though it doesn't really exist, right? You could say that this move from 40k in September to 69k was a blow off top. It's all subjective, right? That's why I don't like things like Elliott wave. I don't like, we need to see a fifth wave because it's all subjective. What constitutes a fifth wave? No one can tell me the same answer. It's all different answers. And so when I'm talking about the 200-week SMA, I'm not relying on these, I'm not relying on these kind of imaginary phrases or words. I'm relying on actual concrete data that's played out on multiple occasions. We have been to the 200-week SMA for 15 months in Bitcoin's lifespan, right? And we have not closed one single weekly candle below that for 15 months. That's 60 weeks almost, right? So in 60 weeks of testing, we go to it in a bear market and we do not close one single weekly candle below that. It is the macro bottom we've seen on Bitcoin. At this point, there is no reason to believe it will go anywhere but that. That's what I'm saying. So do I think that you can predict the future price of Bitcoin, like in a bull market? Like if you're asking me based on the 4-year cycle, where will Bitcoin go in the next bull market? I can't tell you that because the trend doesn't suggest anything to do with that. What it does suggest is that the 200-week is a major macro bottoming out zone. So whether it bottoms out there or not is a different question, but that is a likely place it will bottom out. That's all we can say about it. G'day, mate. Good point. Something up with that guy. Sailor is the king of the moon boys. Correct. Ever heard of the Mac of Mount Gox? Yes, I have. I heard they may have found it and plan to return it to the old holders, which would be a sane profit for So they won't return the amount of Bitcoin. They'll return the dollar value of the Bitcoin at the time of the hack. Okay, because they're not going to pay out hundreds of millions of dollars, obviously, right? If I had one Bitcoin back in 2013 and Mount Gox got hacked, they're not going to give me $39,000. They'll give me what I had at the time in dollar value. Surely, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know where they're going to get that money from if that's not right. This rally looks like it looks like it has legs. It does indeed. Sailor has a bit of a sketchy past. He does. He's a criminal, right? He's fraudulent activity in the .com bubble, and he lost $1.3 billion. Do you have any favorite meme coins? No TA required. Just curious. Yeah, I don't have any favorite meme coins, unfortunately. I don't dabble in the world of micro caps too often. And even if I did, I wouldn't talk about it because that's quite an embarrassing thing for an analyst to do. But yeah, no, I don't like Dogecoin or Shiba or any of those Elon Musk coins. I think I like to stick with TA. Have I ever invested in them in the past? Yeah, of course I have. I've traded them. Because you can trade them, because TA still works on them, right? With Dogecoin, it's like TA still works on a Dogecoin, right? If you have a descending channel formation, it's still going to work on Dogecoin. It's just going to be less reliable because you might get a tweet from Elon Musk that drives the price out of a channel, not according to your TA. So I don't like trading them, but I still have traded them in the past. Do you think Bitcoin will pull back from here? Yeah, again, shorter term price movements are unpredictable at this point. Longer term, I'm bearish. I'm going to skip through some of these altcoins here and just try to catch up with the questions because I'm ending the stream soon. I looked at ZIL earlier in the video, Mal, so go ahead and check that out. Can you please share Bitcoin price action? Again, I just joined. Scroll back to the start of the video. Throughout the first 20 minutes or something, I checked out Bitcoin. ETC, exclamation mark. No, sorry. Stop shouting. Skipping through some of these coins here. Sorry, guys. If you want more coins looked at, I'm going to do live streams weekly now, I think, so you can go ahead and check them out in the next live stream and ask your questions, ask the coins. I've done like 10 or 15 altcoins at this point, maybe 10. Okay. Does your course have short-term intraday trading strategies? Of course, it has all the strategies. I mean that quite literally, right? It has long-term strategies, medium-term strategies, short-term strategies. It has how to trade all of those time frames, how to trade those indicators, patterns, market patterns, etc., candlestick patterns. It's literally a course that is designed for traders by traders, right? So yeah, everything to do with trading, it's about. Now, is it about long-term holding coins? What's the best way to DCA? No, it's about trading, okay? So, but that covers long-term and short-term trading. So whether you're macro trading or whether you're intraday trading, covers everything like that. He typed on-chain analysis into autocorrect to Mercury. Yeah, true. Yeah, because on-chain analysis is astrology, right? I 100% agree with that. On-chain analysis is astrology. That is a fact. There is hundreds of different on-chain charts. You can get any single view on Bitcoin. I can make a prediction right now. Bitcoin's going to $10 million next week, and I can get an on-chain chart out of the 800 of them that supports it and post it on Twitter, and I'd probably get some traction. So long-term, you're really still bearish. Well, it depends what you mean by long-term. Obviously, long-term, like, you know, next cycle, I'm obviously bullish on Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoin's going to die. I think it's going to be higher. I think the price of Bitcoin is going to be higher in 3 years than it's going to be today. But for the rest of the year, yeah, I think it's bearish, unfortunately. What's a good amount to start trading with? Depends on your goals, depends on everything. I like to think of trading in terms of percentage rather than dollars. It doesn't really matter what your dollar amount is. It matters what your percentage gain is, right? So it depends on how much money you have, really. But definitely not your entire net worth, if that's what you're asking. How do you play the downside of the market if you do not do leverage trading? De-risking, what do you mean play the downside? Well, what I like to do is scalp trade off support zones. So when the market's going down, I can identify major support zones that are probably likely to see a bounce. When it gets there, I want to see a bullish reaction in terms of candlestick formations and maybe bullish divergence, etc. Have enough confidence from that to enter a 5 to 10% trade, get a little dead cat bounce trade, and then wait for it to go down further and do the same thing at a lower support level. You don't need a short to be able to take advantage of a downside. Hey, I like your TA. Do you think we're still in bear? Yes, I do. You're definitely unbiased. I love your takes. Thank you. If we break the wedge to the upside, how likely is it to reject from a channel? I would say at this point, based off the TA that I've observed in the past, that it is more likely than not, if we break the wedge to the upside, that we will reject from a channel formation. So I'd say more likely than not generally, when we're talking about things like that, right, when we're talking about descending wedge breakouts, 70% of the time, we're talking about successful resistance support flips, 70% of the time. So I'd say there's about a 30% chance that Bitcoin will break back within that channel. Do you think Solana will drop as well? Every altcoin will drop. Every altcoin will drop long term. Short term, we can look at Solana. Every altcoin will drop. If Bitcoin continues going down, every altcoin will drop. Now, on the weekly chart, Solana doesn't look too bad. It's holding support that was formed in August 2021. It's also holding the support that was formed in February 2022. Going to the daily chart, we can see that it's bouncing. It's mid-bounce right now. So you've probably missed that trade already. Now, this is an example of how you trade downside. You understand that this is a major support block, this green box here. It's a bit wide. I haven't changed this chart in a while, but that's the vague support block. You understand that's major support. You understand when we get there, you will likely be bouncing. You look for bullish divergence, and then you bounce a little 5% trade and get a little scalp on the way down. I might head off in about 5 minutes here. I'll answer the last few questions. I'll look for good ones this time. So bear with me. I'm just going to look for some good questions. Okay. Bitcoin will probably capitulate when it loses 37k support. If Bitcoin loses 37k, the drop will be fast, in my opinion. Right? Fast is subjective, but it will be, it's subjective, but it will be accelerated. Like, for example, what we've seen now, where we've seen this slow decline, that's not going to happen, right? It's going to be much more similar to what we saw most likely in from November to January, right? Until we reach 30k, and then we can reassess that. Benjamin Cohen Wolves collab? Yeah, I'm definitely not big enough to collab with Benjamin Cohen, and if I was, I don't think I would. Not because I don't think he's a good analyst. He is a good analyst. I just think he talks a lot about the bull market support band like every day, and I can't have that. And it wouldn't really be interesting because at this point we've got very similar views. Now, again, I would like to debate him about the 4-year cycle theory because he's not a believer in 4-year cycle. I don't know how you can't believe in 4-year cycle. It's not even an opinion at that point. It's so clearly a fact. I mean, that top in November, yeah, maybe before November it was an opinion because it wasn't really a trend yet. But now that it's had 3 data points, it's a trend. It's a confirmed trend by mathematical standards. So it's funny to see him kind of edge his way around what he said last year about Bitcoin being in a cyclical cycle, being in a lengthening cycle. You know, he's kind of saying that doesn't really exist anymore without saying it. But the 4-year cycle is clearly the replacement for that point of view. So yeah, I disagree with him on that for sure. I've gone over FTM earlier in the video. A question, if we break the 100 MA and find on the weekly chart, do we have to go to the 200 MA or will we find support and say 30k and 32k, for example? Short term, we can definitely find support at 30k to 32k, 100% short term. However, longer term, we have to assume a 200 week SMA will play out simply due to the fact that every time we've seen a capitulation on Bitcoin, we have ended up there, right? It's just a trend. It's a trend. That's all it is. And we have to assume the trend will repeat until it doesn't. Trend is your friend until it ends. Okay. Might wrap it up after one more question. Will you short this pump? No, I don't use leverage. Hi, how would you adjust a 35% down portfolio? See, that's a difficult question because I'm not in that position. But as of right now, what I would say, if I was, deep in altcoins right now and I was down on so much money, it's irrational to sell right now. What you'd be waiting for, in my opinion, is a macro drop below 37k. And if you get that macro drop below 37k, you can be pretty confident from that point, but it's just going to go downwards further. And at that point, that would be a sell signal. As of right now, you can hold because there is a small percentage chance that you could go up from here. And you've already lost so much money anyway that you may as well, try and risk it to make a little bit back. But 37k is definitely the line in the sand. So I think I'll wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for watching the live stream. About an hour and a half in. It's been good. 141 concurrent viewers. That's pretty impressive. I'm pretty happy about that. Thanks for joining in. I hope I answered some of your questions. Sorry if I missed some of your altcoins there. I can't answer every question at this point. There's simply too many of them. But I appreciate you joining up, and I'll catch you with a video tomorrow. Before I go, Harry, I looked at AXS earlier in the video. Go ahead and check that out. It's somewhere there. You'll find it if you just scroll through. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you in the next one. Cheers, guys.